Welcome back to church, man. We're so excited that you're here. We last couple of episodes we've been talking about Bitcoin, and one thing that me and Jason were talking about is that we've given all this information, but we've left out some practical points. We've left out a couple physical things that you need to kind of do to kind of ensure that if you're going to make this investment, that it's going to be secure, and kind of like some avenues of how to protect yourself. And so we're going to have Bitcoin episode 3. We're going to kick it off. And our prayer is that you get something out of this, that you learn a couple tricks to kind of help you secure your financial future, incorporating Bitcoin into it. So with that, Jason, I got to ask you, I think everybody wants to know, like, how do you keep this stuff safe?
Yeah, that's good.
What if my computer gets hacked? What if the service I'm using goes out of business? And what if I got Bitcoin Cash? Or what if I don't have actual how do I keep it safe?
Yeah. So the first thing you do is, one of the rules is how everybody starts, they buy it on exchanges. So most people are familiar with, if you've looked into Bitcoin at all, you'll know what Coinbase is.
Mm-hmm.
But you may not have heard some. Yeah, exactly right. A lot of people, Coinbase is kind of your barrier to entry, or like once you start using Coinbase, it's just a more popular brand. They've been around longer, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. The one caveat being that Coinbase right now has other cryptocurrencies advertised, so I really don't want to get people distracted. You don't want people to lose focus. Okay. You invest in Bitcoin, you don't invest in the other ones, unless that your goal is just short-term money chasing. That's good. That's like fine. I would not say good, but long-term, most other cryptocurrencies, I believe their value will drop to zero. Like, because money tends to pool to the best currency. So you can see this as evidence with the US dollar.
Okay.
With the US dollar, a lot of countries around the world, sovereign nations, denominate their value and use the currency of the US dollar. So most people don't want to trade the superior currency. In this case, the thinking is the US dollar being superior. They don't want to trade it for an inferior currency. So the same thing will happen. Let's say you invest in other cryptocurrencies, and I don't want to name them because I don't want to defame anybody. And if you have them, that's fine. It's your choice. But the challenge will end up being that eventually you'll realize, if you had bought the superior currency that you're now trying to get into years later, you would be better off more quickly. Okay. So I'm not saying you can't succeed on some level by investing in other things. Like, obviously you can invest in gold and real estate and all these other things, and it'll be denominated more highly in US dollars over time. I don't deny that. What I know is those are inferior stores of value to Bitcoin. And so in asking that and saying that, that's why Coinbase, other exchanges like that, if they advertise other cryptocurrencies, I just don't want people to get distracted. If your focus is to start living on what we call a Bitcoin standard, like realizing that things denominated in Bitcoin, the value, the cost of them tends to go down because the value of the Bitcoin goes up. So you asked about securing it. I don't want to caveat too far from that. So whether you use Coinbase, whether you use River, which is where I buy my Bitcoin primarily, and we'll post a link. I think we've done this last couple of shows. We'll post a link down in the show notes for River. Whether you're using Swan Bitcoin, another good one, whether you are buying it through your Fold app. So I use a Fold card where I get rewards. Basically, it's a debit card where I deposit from my bank into my Fold card, and you get a certain percentage back on every purchase in Bitcoin, in Satoshis. And you can buy on there. They actually have an exchange where you can buy from there as well. So what I would say is, no matter where you're buying and no matter how trustworthy they are, and I love River specifically because they show their proof of reserves. And what that means is they show you the Bitcoin that they own, so you can be sure when you buy your Bitcoin that they actually have it and can actually send it to you when it's time. You brought up FTX, either last episode or the one before. This was the problem with FTX that during the collapse really hurt Bitcoin, is they said they owned Bitcoin and bought it for customers and were holding it, and that was not true. So they actually never really even bought the Bitcoin. So when it was realized that they didn't hold the Bitcoin or they bought it and then sold it, and people realized they didn't have it, their company went collapsing, right? It crumbled. People went to jail. And it's just a mess all around. And they didn't release proof of reserves. Nobody could ever see what Bitcoin they own. Well, river.com, they release it's just River, but river.com's website. River releases their proof of reserves. So I trust them and I buy there. Here's the thing. When I get to 2.5 million Satoshis, which is, that value is going to change over time as people listen to this, but I think right now it's like $1,500, and I'm blessed to be able to do that and invest in my future as my retirement. When I hit that threshold, my Bitcoin that I hold on River that I bought moves to my cold storage.
Okay.
It moves off of River. So no matter how trustworthy the exchange you're buying from is, like Coinbase is secure. They hold a lot of Bitcoin for a lot of the Bitcoin ETFs through BlackRock and Fidelity, things like that. We could get into that in a minute about buying the ETFs, which is kind of a stock that represents the value of Bitcoin held by a company, and they buy the Bitcoin and you get the stock. But the challenge I feel with that is you end up getting a US dollar return and you don't actually own the Bitcoin. So what I would say is, in terms of securing your Bitcoin, buy real Bitcoin, not the alternatives. Make sure when you buy a certain threshold, let's say over 1 million Satoshis or so, move that to cold storage. And why do we do that is because when I buy from River and then I move it to my cold storage, it doesn't matter if River collapses. There will be no impact to what I already own. It would be the equivalent of like a bank holding your gold bars, and then you take those gold bars and have them shipped to your home. So now you're in charge of them. River has nothing to do with it. Once I get it off of their exchange, off of their holding, it's my responsibility now.
Okay.
That Bitcoin is. So that's how you protect it.
That's a very good, I like that analogy, because I was going to ask you the same thing. Is it, so once you pull it off of whatever exchange you have, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like you take full ownership of it. It's still in the blockchain, right? But it's now under your custody.
Yeah. So everybody, not everybody, people may have heard of wallets. And so when you start an account with River, you have a Bitcoin wallet, and all a wallet is alphanumeric code, right? It's just a long string of digits that is basically saying these transaction IDs. When you buy Bitcoin, these transaction IDs are under this code, right? Think of it like an address. Your gold is at your address,
okay,
right? It's at your home. If you move the gold, it's at a different address. So that's all that's doing. If you bought gold in Switzerland, it's at some address in the Swiss Alps, right? It's like in that place in Switzerland. You move the gold, it's now at your home address in the United States or whatever country you're in. So the same thing is true with Bitcoin. So it goes from the River wallet that I have, like when I buy it, it's in a River wallet. And then when I move it, it's in my cold storage wallet. So now I'm the only custodian into a wallet. So it is kind of like moving gold or cashing out a bank account, if you will. I mean, I think that's an apt comparison. Like taking Bitcoin that you own is like cash in the bank, if you will, like taking it when you buy it on River, that you own on River, and moving it like to cash into your mattress, if you will. Not that that's a good idea, by the way.
Yeah.
But that's what it's like moving it to cold storage. So now that cash, let's say the bank collapses, whoever it is that you bank with ends up closing. Well, obviously the cash under your mattress is unaffected. So that's the benefit of cold storage. That's the benefit of moving your Bitcoin there.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So to recap, that is ultimately what you want to do as you collect Bitcoin. Find it, create your own threshold, and once you meet that threshold, move it off the exchange into a cold storage.
That's correct. Now, there is something I want to point out that I think is really important that people may not understand yet, but as you learn it, it's important. You do not want to move very small amounts of Bitcoin into your cold storage. So for instance, if I do a $10 buy, and that's like something like 14,000 Satoshis right now, I'm not going to take, and I used to do this. This is why I point this out. I'm not going to take 14,000 Satoshis and move it to my cold storage. Why is that? So there's a thing that you don't need to know yet, but you'll learn as you go, called UTXOs. So it's unused transaction signifiers, basically. So what that means is in Bitcoin, you're buying those fractional pieces of one Bitcoin, and inside your wallet are these little transactions. If you send like 14,000 to your cold storage, you have 14,000 Satoshis that sits alone as its own transaction in your cold storage. Here's the challenge of that. Someday on the blockchain, when oil transactions that are billions of dollars are moving each day, that cost to the miners and all those things, the cost of securing the Bitcoin network, the cost of a transaction might, in theory, be more than that entire UTXO, that little portion of Bitcoin you just sent to your cold storage. So what does that mean? If you try to spend that money in the cold storage, you can't, because the transaction fee is higher than using it, right? So when you're using Bitcoin, you want to be sending larger chunks. Typically, what I recommend is 1 million Satoshis, or 0.001 Bitcoin, right? 1 million Satoshis would be my minimum, that typically something like that gets sent to cold storage. Sometimes I'll do something a little smaller. I think I recently sent like 600,000 Satoshis into cold storage, and I'll use that as like a smaller transaction someday. Anyways, don't send itty bitty transactions of Bitcoin in US dollar value now into your cold storage, unless you understand that you need to consolidate those someday into a larger one.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
As you move it to cold storage, when you go to redeem it, spend it, however you want to do, right?
Yep.
You have to do it in the same denomination that you send to cold storage?
No. So you can use fractional. So let's say I sent 14,000 Satoshis, right? That small one. That's like $10, and you want to buy like $5 worth of something. So what will happen is you will need to get that out of cold storage and send it to a Lightning wallet or some type of transactional wallet. Lightning wallets are amazing. There's a thing called Speed Wallet that I use. Then there's various ones. And I know that technology will get better and better. And someday Apple will incorporate into their phones and Android, and you'll be able to just tap, right? So I understand that these challenges are the barrier to entry to Bitcoin right now. Like the understanding of how to then transact. I think while it's important, start buying Bitcoin is my advice. And then start worrying about how to transact later, because you don't want to buy it now and then spend it now. What you want to do is be storing your value in it right now. And the technology, as it improves, will get better and better on how to actually use it day to day.
Okay.
But as you gain an understanding, you'll be able to, for instance, that 14,000 Satoshis UTXO, right? You'll be able to take that, and that's $10 now. So like half of that's 7,000 Satoshis. Say you want to buy a $5 cup of coffee. You take 7,000 Satoshis, you'll spend it on the coffee, but you also have to pay the network fee, which can be very low or can be a little bit higher, depending on how much activity is on the blockchain at the time. So basically you're paying a fee to try to get your transaction confirmed. And that fee goes to the miners and the, the nodes and all those things that are trying to like maintain the network.
Okay.
Right. It doesn't actually go to the nodes, but the nodes are just a copy of the transaction on the blockchain.
Okay.
But the miners get paid to confirm your transaction with that fee. So the challenge is the fee at the moment that you transact might be 100 Satoshis. So you have to have 7,100, because the 100 goes to the miners and the fee on the network, like paying the bank, which, by the way, this shouldn't be weird to people, because whether you know it or not, built into every Walmart transaction you do, every Nike, every McDonald's, everything are the credit card fees. You don't see them. Yeah. But those companies they build them in, because otherwise they're losing money every credit card transaction.
Yep.
So if your cheeseburger goes up 1%, that could be because the fee to use your MasterCard from MasterCard to McDonald's went up 1%.
Yep.
So paying a fee to use your money is not unusual. And in fact, in this case, it helps secure the privacy and the validity of your transaction. So I'm glad to pay the fees, but that's what I'm saying is someday if the fee, right, like say the fee in that moment that you're trying to spend your Satoshis is 8,000 Satoshis and your cup of coffee was 7. Well, that's 15,000 Satoshis. Okay. So you probably wouldn't want to buy the cup of coffee straight from cold storage. You would use your Lightning wallet. That Lightning, what it does, it's a layer 2 protocol over Bitcoin's layer 1, and it stacks together transaction fees. So it lowers the transaction fee. But this is my point to you. If you're like, nah, I'm not using Lightning, I'm going to pull it straight from cold storage and do my coffee buy. Well, right there, you're basically just donating your Satoshis, or it will stop the transaction because it costs 8,000 Satoshis to confirm the transaction, and you've only got 15,000 in that one UTXO. So this is why having 1 million Satoshis or so per UTXO per time that you send it to cold storage will be important, because then the fees won't stop you from being able to move your 1 million Satoshis back into a usable wallet. Because that's the benefit of cold storage, by the way. You don't spend it's like a safe. You don't spend your Bitcoin from your cold storage. You put it back into an active wallet on your phone. But what you don't want to do is store millions and millions and millions of Satoshis on your phone in an app that can then get hacked, or, you know what I mean? Like there's protections you need to do. Yeah. Or lost, or you forget the password or whatever.
Good point.
So anyways,
what happens if you lose? What happens if you lose your cold storage wallet or your Lightning wallet? Is your Bitcoin essentially gone?
If you lose your cold storage actual wallet, like a physical device that you use to log in, it should be okay as long as you have your 12-word seed phrase, because that will give you access again to that wallet. Any wallet you have, 12-word seed phrase. If you lose a Lightning wallet on your phone and you don't know the seed phrase, you don't know the password because you're just transacting, or like say you lose your cold storage device or anything like that, and you don't know the passwords or the PIN numbers or the 12-word seed phrase that you should have, it's gone. You just donated it to the network. So
whoa.
Yeah.
That's a big point right there. It's gone.
Yep. It is gone. Yeah. You just donated to the network. So Bitcoin is the ultimate personal responsibility money. So if you would like to trust a bank with your money because you, in quotes, know they'll have it and you don't have to do a lot of work, that's okay. That also means they can manipulate whatever they're doing with your money, which they have been doing since starting in 1930. So what I've chosen to do is not trust another entity, because Bitcoin is trustless money. Like, you move it, you take care of it. And I'm going to take personal responsibility for my financial future. So when the time comes, I will need to know how to use it, right? But I believe in that. If you're not ready to take personal responsibility for your money, then you're also trusting someone else with your money, and they can do things that they want to do with it. So let's say even in the most beautiful and peaceful way, River is doing its best. It's like, man, we're going to be honorable. You're going to buy Bitcoin here. You can trust us. You can hold it here. And then something happens. Someday the CEO changes. Someday they're a little less honorable. And maybe something happens where they get a lawsuit. You're like, I don't know. Well, if you still have any money with them on exchanges, if you trust anyone with your Bitcoin, anything can happen, right? Whereas you can know how much you value your Bitcoin, how you want to store it, how you want to secure it, and you can make those choices. I like the personal responsibility of Bitcoin. I think it is one of the most important parts of it. So
that's good.
But yeah, you lose your passwords, your seed phrase, your PIN, you cannot call the company that owns the cold storage that you bought. So mine is through Cold Card or CoinKite. CoinKite is the company. I buy a cold card. MK4 is what I have. And in theory, if I had Bitcoin and didn't lose it in a boating accident. But CoinKite is a company that sells cold storage. What CoinKite does not do is keep your seed phrase on hand, because the device gives it to you. Once you get your device, they give it to you. They have no connection to the device anymore. And if they did, somebody on the back end could steal your password. So they've avoided that. They have avoided this thing. So that's the key, is you don't want somebody to be able to, like right now, you can call your bank and give them your address, give them all this stuff, and they'll like tell you your account number, right? But that means somebody has access to it.
Yep. Somebody else is telling you what you have.
Yes. That bank has access to your value. Your Bitcoin isn't like that. You have to take personal responsibility to do it. And given how different governments around the world have treated their currencies, I would think that is a benefit, not a barrier to entry.
Interesting.
So anyways, yeah, you're donating to the network and making all the other Bitcoin more valuable, because the Bitcoin you lost won't ever move again. It'll be gone. If you lose the password and no one else knows it, it'll never move again. And by the way, yes, before I forget, there are millions of Bitcoin that are just like this that will never move again, because people didn't realize the value and they lost their passwords back in the day. So
personal responsibility money. So
yes,
in your opinion, I'm in no ways a doomsday prepper, but I'm someone who likes to be prepared.
You're a doomsday awareness person.
Yeah, I don't think I'm on the level of being a prepper, but I like to be prepared. If a generator is needed or is a possibility, let's just get a generator. If there's a way to minimize the amount of personal information I have in the world, let's do that as well. And so one thing that I've always been kind of, it's kind of always bothered me throughout my kind of adult life was the fact that in my mind, money isn't real. It is, especially today, money is, you can go somewhere and do a transaction with a card or your phone and walk out with something because there's some numbers somewhere on a server that's attached to an account number that's attached to your name. So the ultimate threat, being ex-military in the world, would be an electronic threat on servers. I mean, Lord forbid Visa gets hacked, or, there's a wide outage or something, or, I heard this the other day. It was like, money is the equalizer. When the bank closes, we're all the same. Like if there's a natural disaster and there's flooding, it doesn't matter how much money you got. It won't make the water go away. No one's coming. Like there's, so when you're cut off from things, you're just cut off from things. And so for me, it would be naive as a leader of my family to not be like, we have to have some protections against those type of things happening, because they can and they will. We've watched banks go under for, I think, over the last 3 years. We've been seeing various banks, big and small, just be like, what do you do when your bank is like, hey, we're closing, and you're like, okay, well, we got the federal, banking insurance, FDIC,
the FDIC stuff,
but still, you also lose control of them, because now, so for people who don't have Bitcoin, or you're still on the fence, it's not only, the most personal responsible money, but it's kind of a store of value that you can have full autonomy over.
Yeah.
If you lose it, it's your fault. If you don't buy it, it's your fault. If you keep and maintain it, it's also
to your credit.
Yeah.
Right.
It's to your benefit. And so, those things just kind of, I like that kind of scenario. I like having some skin in the game. I like having some control. I know God is overall in control. We talk about Jesus on this channel consistently, that we put our trust in God. And sometimes we're asking God for a miracle to happen in our life, when the miracle is you. The miracle is you have the ability to think. You have the ability to critically think, the ability to make decisions, and the ability to make moves. And sometimes we pray for God to do things that he's like, no, I woke you up this morning. I'm having information flood into your life. That's the miracle, that you have access, and you can make a decision to have a better tomorrow. And instead of saying, give me a better tomorrow, God's like, I'm going to give you tomorrow.
Yeah.
If it's going to be better, you're going to have to do something about it.
Right.
you're going to, because God requires our input into things, just like our relationship with him.
That's
He's
right.
willing and ready to have a relationship with us at all times. We have to be able to input into that. He ain't going to chase you down. He'll pursue you. He's always there and ready, right?
Yeah.
But your relationship doesn't start to grow until you take personal responsibility for it.
Right.
And
that's real.
And so when you were talking about personal responsibility, and when it refers to like, Bitcoin and keeping it, and if you lose it, it's lost. I'm like, man, that's a concept right there.
Yeah. I mean, it is it is your choice. You said it as best as I could say it. You get to choose whether you buy Bitcoin or not. And I'll use the phrase that I think you really enjoy this when I said it to you. And I do think it's true, because I think people will realize, and there's a bell curve on adoption, right? So some people always realize late, and some people are in that middle where like most people have now adopted it. But I believe if you transact someday into the future, barring some kind of natural disaster that wipes us all out, like you will transact in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I think everyone will use Bitcoin that transacts financially in the financial world, and they'll get it at what price? They'll get it at the price they deserve.
They deserve.
And so as of recording today, we're up into the 70s, 72, 71,000.
Nice jump.
Right. Yeah. We were at 60 not too long ago.
Yeah.
And you could have bought it then. But the good news is, it was like less than a month ago.
Yeah.
So we were in the 50s, 55, 58. Yeah, we were. So the good news is, and I'll quote one of the people I enjoy following on X is Mike Alfred. And he kind of consistently posts these things as like, it's almost sarcastic and funny, but it's sincere too, if you think of it this way. Don't worry. If you missed Bitcoin at 58,000, that's okay, because you can buy it today for 70,000. Right? And that will always be true every time. Don't worry. If you miss Bitcoin at 70,000, it's okay, because someday in the future you can buy it for 100,000.
Yeah.
Hey, if you miss Bitcoin at 100,000, don't worry, because today you can still buy it at $1 million. Like, this will be true for people all over the world that are realizing it late, that deny it, that run away from it, that don't like the personal responsibility, that they're waiting for their financial advisor to say the word Bitcoin to them before they trust it. And by the way, a financial advisor is just someone who's human like you that's done research. So you can do your own research.
You can.
This is not a tough game to play. They don't have much more inside baseball than you do. So
go Dodgers.
Anyway, go Dodgers. That's right. Shout out to Freddie Freeman when MVP. Didn't expect to talk about that today, but yeah, like he worked hard.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, like the ability to protect your future wealth is yours, but you have to choose. You have to choose it, and that's the thing. So, and like it's coming, by the way.
I like how you frame that, the thing with the that don't worry, if you miss Bitcoin at 55, you can buy it today at 72, right? I think for a lot of people who may be listening to this podcast, you're like, man, I'm already priced out of the game to get a coin. And so here's my concept of that, right? Because the first thing, my goal was, I got to get a coin. I just want one. Let me get one, right?
Let me get one.
And one may be a big jump for you, right? So there was a time where people were buying. Jason even told us, like, you bought like, well,
I know, about
hundreds of coins, right?
Yeah,
you bought hundreds of coins. Well, if you're not at the level of buying a coin, don't let that discourage you from starting, because here's my honest belief, right? I'm in the Satoshi game. Okay. I'm not in the coin game. I'm not.
That's right.
I'm letting you know, I'm in Satoshi. That's where I'm at. Right. And so I can buy a lot of those. Right. And so Jason said it, like $10, like what, 14,000 Satoshis, roughly, somewhere around there.
That's right. Something like that.
What do you do? I mean, don't be the person be like, hey, don't worry. You can buy one Satoshi today, because,
that's
at $1, you can buy one for at $1 because you missed it at, $10 for 14,000.
That's
so
right.
Look at, as we're unpacking this, and you may feel like I don't have the kind of money to invest in that. You can invest something. Like, you may think, $5-10. Because Jason's also taught me how to micro invest, like just
Yes.
everything hasn't have to be big blocks. He's like, yeah, sometimes I just do $10 buys. I just do this. I'll do $5 a day, and it's compounding because Bitcoin just went up to 72, right? So say you only had 30,000 Satoshis, you're still affected by that.
Yeah, exactly right. You're
It still
carrying
does
value.
something to your investment, right? So
Yeah.
I think sometimes we look for the big bang, but sometimes the consistency of doing what we can in the long run adds up. I'm just gonna hang in there to when your Satoshis are like 250, and I'm like, yo, wow.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like it's a strange.
Yes, for one.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, man. Like when someday in the future this sounds surreal, but when one Bitcoin is worth 100 million US dollars, right? The two things I know are true. One Satoshi will be worth $1 US. Okay, so you could have gotten 14,000 of them for 10 or 1,400 for $1, and now you're getting one per dollar. Okay. If it's true that I can still buy it, then I'll still be buying one Satoshi for $1. So I'd be just as happy doing that.
Yep.
Because it'll mean the value of the rest of what I got, right, is continuing to go up as well. The other thing that I think is that when that is true and Bitcoin is valued as $100 million in US dollars, you won't want US dollars. I don't think by then that the right things will have been happening.
It won't be the standard, right?
Right. I hope that's not true. I hope maybe it's gone up because the U.S. establishes a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which both Donald Trump, at the time of this recording, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are competing for the presidency. Both of them have talked about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and are starting to awaken to the idea that that's going to need to be a part of the financial system going forward. So that's really good. But by the time one Bitcoin is 100 million US dollars, I think we'll care more about the Satoshis you have in hand. I think that's, and that's already where I'm at, is like, how many Satoshis do I have stacked? Because I know the US dollar value will go up because the US dollar, they can print more of at a whim. What I want to know is how many Satoshis would you trade me for the home that I want to buy? How many Satoshis will it take to get that car? Because the number of Satoshis that it'll take to get that house that you want will go down. The number of Satoshis it will take to buy those shoes you really like, that will go down. The number of Satoshis you need to get into that vehicle that you're just, man, that's going to like make me feel better about what I'm doing in my life. The number of Satoshis to buy that dream car is going to go down. But the number of US dollars will go up because they print more. You cannot make more Bitcoin. The capped supply that only stops, like it's going to be finished coming out in 2140, right? So by 2140, single Satoshi every 10 minutes. I think we talked about this before. The number of Satoshis it takes to live your life will go down. So you want as many as you can, because then slowly you'll never have to sell your whole stack. In theory, right? If you wait long enough, if you're patient enough. And by the way, this is true of other investments. How often have we heard from the Warren Buffetts of the world or somebody else like that that's like an investing expert? Stop buying your coffee each morning and invest in something.
Yeah.
Right? Those $5 purchases stack up. Especially when you consider like a lot of the Bitcoin is being bought up in gigantic numbers by single companies. So then you're not really that far behind, because you're going to be front running a ton of individual humans, but individual humans will never be as rich as BlackRock, right? They'll never be as rich as the Fidelities of the world or the MicroStrategies. So do your level best to, even if you can't get to one coin, it doesn't matter. There will only ever be a maximum of 21 million people that ever exist that own a whole coin. So the odds on earth that you ever meet someone is slim. Like, stop setting that standard for yourself. Oh, I can't get to a whole coin, I shouldn't buy any. Most people will never own a whole coin, and most people will be ecstatic to own what they own. So stop quitting on yourself. Stop giving up. Stop looking at other things because, oh, I can't own a whole coin. If that's your reason for not buying, fix that. Change that. Now, if you don't buy for another reason, that's on you. Again, not financial advice, I should say, every episode. You do your own research, but I've done my research, and my choice is to chase Satoshis with an energy that matches my conviction that someday you won't be able to get them. Someday the Satoshis will be bought up. So yesterday, 450 Bitcoin went out into the world from miners, right? That's just the distribution that's happening right now, 450. Thousands got bought yesterday.
Wow.
So the entire daily supply is getting bought times 3, times 4. And this is right now with big news happening in Bitcoin. The Florida CFO suggested that pension funds in the state of Florida begin buying Bitcoin in their reserves, right? He wrote an open letter. You can go look that up.
Wow.
MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor's company, just announced yesterday, I believe, $42 billion being raised. $42 billion to buy Bitcoin over the next 3 years.
Wow.
Can I be
That's
clear?
a big deal.
Yeah, if only MicroStrategy buys and the price stays exactly the same, he would literally buy 100,000 Bitcoin more than will be released in the next 3 years. So that's one company chasing all of the Bitcoin. So what happens when every billionaire begins waking up and they're like, I just want to buy 1 billion of Bitcoin. I just want 1 billion, right? I don't need 18 billion. I don't need 42 billion. I'm a billionaire. I'm Elon Musk. I'm just going to buy 1 billion more. I'm Elon Musk. I have $200 billion. I just want 1 billion or 2. That's like a nothing investment for him. I mean, I don't mean to spend his money for him, but like you have to do the math and look at the value coming into the world in terms of US dollars. The Bitcoin's going to be gone. And you're going to have to go get it from the MicroStrategies and BlackRocks of the world, and they're going to charge you a premium. You'll get less Satoshis per dollar. But right now, river.com, the link below in this video, go buy some Satoshis. Like, not financial advice, just, what I do.
Yeah, not financial advice. Just
not
might be a good
advice.
idea.
It could be good to get some of this in case it catches on. So,
have you ever thought about any other currency that exists right now outside of silver and gold and maybe some other precious metals that are considered currency that actually go up with the market? Like it's unique, right? And I guess it's not unique because that's what gold does, right? And that's what the US dollar is supposed to be backed by, right? That was the beginning concept, but it got revised and now it's not. But, gold fluctuates, right? As Bitcoin just continues to move up, and to everybody listening and you're looking at trends. I think you said this, Jason, if you're going to buy Bitcoin and you're going to, every time it dips or every time it loses, like at 72, it may hit 55 again. And if it does, buy it.
Yeah.
So,
The challenge is,
if it ever hits 40, buy a lot, and so
buy double.
Yes, so if you're looking at it and you're like, oh my goodness, it goes up, it goes down. Like, you need to be in it for like a significant period of time. You need to be in it for like, this is a long-term strategy. Like I think Jason kind of broke down. You don't want to buy Bitcoin to be moving it out of your cold storage, to use it to buy a cup of coffee or to, you want it to, for lack of better terms, mature, right? You want to buy it and you want it to mature because Jason, you also held Bitcoin and then made a decision like, you know what, that's at a good place. Let's relinquish some of this and let's get completely out of debt.
Yeah, that's right. I was actually going to talk about that as you were bringing it up. Like the strategy I have employed, theoretically, if I own Bitcoin, would be do what you can to get out of debt as quickly as possible, to credit cards, to any car loans, any school debt, things like that. Set yourself up where your payments are not beating your life down. Get those things secure. And then that is when you start, because when you're investing in Bitcoin, I do want to say this, like whatever you invest in, you should be investing money that if you lost it tomorrow, if everything went to zero, you could still survive. Because you should be providing for your family. You should be providing for yourself. You should be able to survive and in theory thrive, even if your investments went to zero. But after that, being out of debt and, yeah, using some Bitcoin to get ourselves out of debt was worth it to then continue stacking. Like for us, the burden of debt, the monthly payments, it just was a slow grind. And because we expedited it, now we have more freedom to consider investments and to kind of feel that peace. Like there's something about being out of debt that brings a peace to your life that it was worth getting those payments gone. And then being able to ramp up our investment strategy, being able to have more free cash flow each month to throw it into investment rather than the burden of like those medical bills, man. They just keep punching us every month. Those credit card bills, they just keep punching us every month. So we carry no, I'm so thankful to say, grateful to say we carry no credit card debt.
Let's go.
Month to month. So if we use a credit card, we pay it off. And sometimes I'm able to pay it off before the due date, which is like surreal to me at 22. If I had told me that, like that's crazy. But if we use a credit card, I can typically even pay it off that night if I want to. So no interest payment, car payments gone. You know, things are awesome. Like it's the freedom you feel by holding for just a little while.
Yeah.
The Bitcoin, and then using some of that to get rid of some of that debt burden was awesome. Now the key. So here's my new strategy. Now that I'm out of debt, now that I don't have, in theory, tons of things that like, I don't know. I'm not chasing after material things like that. My goal to really spend like any significant portion of my Bitcoin at all, my goal is to wait until the world prices things in Satoshis. So what I mean by that is I'm not going to try to even figure out a way to pay my mortgage in my Bitcoin right now. For me, and this is just my strategy, until my mortgage company's like, we now accept Bitcoin. Right?
Makes sense.
And it's like, okay, so now what they're realizing, what I know is in that world, when companies like that, when car companies and all these, the price of Bitcoin is going to go up. Like in terms of US dollar value. So it will take, like I said before, less and less Satoshis to pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
So then I don't mind it, you know? And I don't know that I don't have a monetary threshold. Like some people ask me, like, would you sell some at $1 million? Well, the problem with selling, like say, you know, you've got multiple coins and you're like, man, it hits $1 million. I'm just going to cash out $1 million and like live in retirement or put that in stocks or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, like we know Bitcoin could hit 50 million. So was it worth it to you? Well, that thing you buy, the thing you're doing with the $1 million better be worth it. It better be worth the 50 million that you gave up. Whatever Satoshis you spend as they grow in value, it better not bother you at night that you gave up that value. It better be worth the thing you bought. So anyways.
I often feel like talking about Bitcoin's a little bit like, you know, the people when Microsoft wasn't a thing. I think they were like selling shares of the company like door to door just to kind of get raise capital. Could you imagine if you just like, hey, let me get
1,000 shares for
of those early ones, you know, like boom.
Like
you get an opportunity to be on the ground floor because me and you differ a little bit, Jason. Like Bitcoin is it's out there if you're well read, if you've paid attention, if you've done a little bit of research, or if you had somebody, you know, who loved you enough to come in your life and just share it with you. You know, and say, hey, thought about this? And you're like, no, not on my radar. Because we hear about a lot of things, but we don't gain knowledge about the things until we really want to or we have to. So you're either listening because you want to or you have to. You know, you're like, if somebody's making you, like, go find out about Bitcoin. Or, you know, you want to. You're looking for something to just show up and kind of revolutionize or change your financial life. So I think that adoption is extremely slow. People are critical. People who and people who know about the investment and they want to have a great return, they'll be like, yeah, and I'm not telling anybody. I want to let me get more, and then when it's more scarce, then I'll start sharing it with people. You know, And so I just think that overall, adoption is just like compared to how many people there are. If you say Bitcoin, they'll be like, oh, that's a scam, you know, right away. Boom, cryptocurrency. What is that? Well, that's what they said about the cassette tape too. And then when the CD came along, they said the same thing. Like, look, what is this garbage? And then when the MP3 player came out, oh my goodness, what work of the devil? What is this?
Yeah.
This little thing has all my songs on it. Where's my record?
That's right. Where's my CD?
8-track?
Yeah.
And,
so, yeah. Go ahead. You're all right.
I just think that that's kind of the concept that a lot of people, they're like, no, stocks, bonds, S&P 500. Those things are good. I'm not talking against those. I'm not comparing those against Bitcoin. I'm just saying that the evidence is there is that Bitcoin is a compelling argument as a store of value. And I recommend you get some. I mean,
not financial advice.
Not financial advice.
So,
I'm just saying as a friend, hey.
Yeah. I just pulled up my calculator on my phone. And so I did some like super quick math. So 21 million Bitcoin, right? Divided by 8 billion people. And in theory, 8 billion people will exist, will transact on Earth. Right now, I think only 3 or 4 billion, maybe 5 billion people are banked. There's a lot of people on Earth that are still maybe a third world country, up and coming country, things like that. So for Bitcoin to be evenly distributed, and I'm trying to do the math really quick. So 21 million divided by 8 billion, right? So we know a full Bitcoin is 100 million Satoshis. So then 0.1 is 10 million. 0.01 is a million. Okay. So for every person on Earth to be evenly distributed, and so right, even let's say wealth was evenly distributed across planet Earth, which we know is not true. For every person to get an equal amount of Satoshis, it's 262,500 Satoshis. Now divide that by 1,400, which is what you can get for $1 right now. And right now, evenly distributed future wealth, right? Evenly distributed would cost you $187 for everybody to get an equal share of the Bitcoin network. So if you could put in $200, you already have an unfair share of this future network that will be storing most of the world's value. So if you look at how technology moves, do you think that, like, if you look 100 years back from us, right? So 2024 to 1924, okay? So 1924 to 2024. Well, the Bitcoin network doesn't stop putting out Satoshis till 2140. Look what technology has done since 1924, right? We barely had automobiles and no plane travel, no cell phones or anything. What do you think the technology looks like in 2140? And then ask yourself, what currency do you think that technology will then be using? So paper money, coins, that it's like going to be obsoleted, man. Like, look what the internet has done since 1999. That's not 100 years. That's 25 years.
Yeah.
So imagine what the internet and technology and AI, and to extrapolate that out, Bitcoin will do in just 25 years. And if you think it's the same, like the same growth, you're wrong, because technological growth, because the cost is driven down, it's deflationary. All of a sudden, the next 25 years will be far more rapid expansion of technology than the last 25. So right now, if your barrier to entry on Bitcoin is that you don't understand, you don't get technology, let me tell you, there will be technology that is far more user-friendly and easy to use in 25 years. You'll just want to make sure you have that Bitcoin set so that when all that, remember, like the conversation we had earlier in the episode, I want to openly admit to everybody, I know the wallet conversation is weird. Like, so you have to move it to cold storage and then you move it to a Lightning wallet to spend it. But then how do I know what's moved? And I know it's a lot, again, that personal responsibility part, it's a learning curve. What's going to happen? And I actually heard Tucker Carlson talking about this on his podcast the other day. He wasn't defaming Bitcoin. He was saying, in order for it to really take, it's going to have to get easier to use. I think the challenge of that, how I would push back on Tucker just for a little bit, is I don't think he's wrong. But if what you're saying is you're not going to buy any until the technology is easier to use, you are going to miss out on huge portions of the store of wealth for your family going into the future.
Yeah.
So, not financial advice, but my advice is do your research and figure out what portion of this network you think. How much of the internet would you have bought if you could buy stock in the internet when it started in 99? How much Manhattan real estate would you have bought in the 1800s if you knew it was finite supply, right? Like think about, I think owning Bitcoin now is like buying small pieces of real estate in New York City in the 1700s, right? Like you don't know, people don't even know what it's going to be worth. You can't even think of, do you think people in the 1700s in New York could have possibly conceived of a skyscraper in 2000?
No.
Right? Like what buildings look like now.
Yeah.
So then when you buy Bitcoin and you realize technology is going faster, we cannot conceive of the value of what one Bitcoin will be in 50 to 100 years. So I want my grandkids to thank me someday. Right? I want my great-grandchildren, to be thankful for what I did and not regret that I didn't pay attention. So
that's good.
That's why this is important. I hope we didn't get too technically in the weeds today. And I hope we answered questions. Like, just so you guys know, whether you buy Bitcoin or not, the huge money in the world is coming to Bitcoin. Sovereign wealth funds are talking about it. Russia, Ethiopia, the UAE, and Argentina are officially announcing that they're mining it with government sovereign money. The big money in the world is rushing towards Bitcoin. It seems like we're still early. But if you wait, right, you'll be just on time. And on time will be fine, but the speed at which you can accumulate Bitcoin in a healthy way for your family will also will match the speed at which your life tends to improve financially. So
good.
It's up to you. You have a choice. And I think it's really cool to have that choice, to be able to get out of the money printing problem that a lot of countries, the kind of like greed that tends to overtake the people that control the monetary systems, the central banks of the world, all that. I think it's nice to be able to take a step aside and not have to like go to war with them or like go, have to fight back. Like you don't totally peacefully, Bitcoin becomes this like peaceful revolution. So, any more questions or anything, Warren, you can think of?
Real quick. And it's a 2-part one. You don't have to dance on it too long, but
no, you're good.
Practically, right? With everything being connected in today's day and age, right? What prevents a cold storage wallet from getting hacked? And is the Bitcoin transferred via Bluetooth, via Ethernet? How does that whole process happen?
Gotcha. So my physical one is not connected to electronics of any kind.
Okay.
Like what that means is like the cold card, when you get it, there is a USB cable that you can use and hook it up to a laptop if you trust the laptop. You can also set it up on a battery system. So literally run it off a battery, so that battery has no ability to steal any information of any kind. I use a laptop. I plug in my cold card, and electricity doesn't come to it till I plug in that power cord. Like you can't hack it. There's a RFID protection. I actually keep mine in a Faraday bag, which blocks RFID stealing, so that, you're definitely not getting it. But if you have to pull it out, they have a cable, hooks into your laptop. I take a micro SD card and I load the transaction onto a micro SD. Then that micro SD goes into your cold card. So you're never actually connecting the wallet you're transacting with the cold card while you type in your passwords. Then you take the micro SD out of the cold card and plug it back into your machine. So the two things never have to be fully touching one another. So
Okay.
the odds that it gets stolen is low. So again, a lot of it is a technology based thing. You're like, well, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like, oh, I'm not that good with technology. That barrier to entry will get easier. Like, I don't believe that this cold card will be my last cold storage, right? I actually think at some point, companies like Apple and things like that, when Bitcoin becomes the standard, they will start investing in ways to build cold storage, like into our mobile devices or those kind of things. So,
wow, okay,
I think it'll get better. Again, technology continues to get better, and Bitcoin hasn't been like fully embraced yet. It may seem like it as a $1 trillion asset that like it's been fully embraced. I don't think we're even close yet.
Wow.
So we have miles to go before we sleep on Bitcoin becoming like ubiquitous and like obviously. So right now you would find it strange not to have a credit card app on your phone.
Yep.
To be able to tap, right? But 5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, you didn't. You weren't like, man, I can't tap my phone and pay. What's going on? But how quickly have we adjusted to that? That's what will happen with Bitcoin wallets. Makes sense. Like, oh, you don't have a Bitcoin wallet built into your phone? What kind of company are you? You know,
why do you have a phone?
and I don't even know what that'll look like in the future. Like, oh, you don't have the Bitcoin chip on the back of your phone to be able to pay, or you know what I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure what that ends up actually looking like. But I know that technology gets cheaper and cheaper, smaller and smaller, faster and faster. Yep. So that's where we're headed with the cold storage stuff. But yeah, if you look up videos on YouTube, there are many videos about how to use a cold card, about how to use, there's Ledger cold storage. My preference is the ones through CoinKite. But there's a lot of information on YouTube. You just have to go do your research. But it's so worth it because again, you're protecting your store of value in the future. I just don't ever want to blindly trust anyone about almost anything they say, but especially my family's financial future. I'm not going to blindly trust anybody about that.
That's good.
I need to verify what you're saying is true and show me through action and evidence and time. So
good. Anyway, Jason, this has been this 3-part series we've kind of done has just been, I think, eye-opening. Thank you for allowing me to drill you with lots of questions and benefit from all the research you've done. Not a shortcut, just a faster pace to get the information digested.
That's right.
And so, thank you for the journey that you've shared. You've been vulnerable on several parts here that you definitely got the ability to talk about Bitcoin holistically. Like you talk the talk and you walk the walk. So thank you for sharing this with people. I know someone's going to hear this, didn't know anything about Bitcoin. And our prayer is not to promote Bitcoin, right? Our prayer is to promote Jesus in everything that we do. This is just something practically that we think can help you be a better whole you, and a better whole you serves God at a greater capacity. We're not trying to get rich to get rich. I don't even think we're trying to get rich. We're trying to take care of our families and be a blessing to our communities, be a blessing to the people around us. So thank you, sir, for sharing with us and allowing us to ask questions, and you just be candid and give us just your best. I think it's befitting as we close this series out that you end us off with prayer, man. But I can't thank you enough for, number one, introducing me to Bitcoin. It's made a difference in my life. And just for helping get this information out there. I appreciate you, man.
You're welcome, man. It's been my pleasure. I'm thankful to God that whether it's that he's given me a mind to understand or like the ability to do research or whatever it is, like you said, he's like, hey, you woke up today. You can choose what you spend your time on. So I'm grateful, man. I'm grateful too. So God, I just thank you so much. I thank you for who you are. I thank you for the opportunities you give us, for the blessings that you pour out on our lives, God. I pray that every single person that watches this episode would just gain a little more understanding, a little more faith in the ways that you move in their life, God, the ways that you want them to store value, the ways that you would have their financial future set so that you can bless them and then they can bless others. And it would just shine a light all the way back to you, God, like that. Every bit of understanding about Bitcoin, about any other topic we talk about, would just continue to lead people into your arms and into trusting you more. Just thank you for the opportunity to share you with others. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen, man.
Thank you, man. This
so
has
good,
been,
brother.
This has been awesome. This has been
Yes,
great.
sir. Yeah.
appreciate
And next
it.
time, guys, we'll have a new topic. I promise. This was this is a good little 3-parter. I liked it.
Yeah, it was good.
So, all right, Warren, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, man.
All right, later.